meet me at the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal.
Hello, my name is Vadelia. Our group is doing a presentation on organisation communication. Our executive summary is about communication breakdown in organisation and leadership styles. This report aims to make recommendations on how to improve them. This is our contents. We will address organisation and leadership roles. We will also talk about hierarchy, flow of communication. There are 4 types. We will also talk about 4 leadership issues, as well as 4 weaknesses and 4 strengths. Then we will follow up with a conclusion and the recommendations.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I'm here to discuss about what is an organization. So an organization consists of a hierarchy of leadership and staff. So a hierarchical organization is an organizational structure where every entity is in the organization except one is subordinate to a single other entity. In an organization, the hierarchy usually consists of a singular or a group of power at the top with subsequent levels of power beneath them. Hierarchical organizational structures chiefly communicate with their immediate superior and with their immediate subordinates. Structuring organizations in this way is useful partly because it can reduce the communication overhead by limiting informational flow. This is also its limitation. So now we go to the flow of communication within an organization. First one, we have the downward communication, which links from the higher levels to the lower levels. And then we have the upwards communication, which displays feedback from tasks. And then we have the horizontal communication, which happens between 2 people. And then the lateral communication from different levels to the upper level, coordinating information from all the different levels. So now I'm going to discuss the different organizational issues. Well, it's true that making a mistake can be a learning opportunity. Wouldn't it be better if, from the very start, leaders make and take the time to learn to recognize and avoid these common mistakes, which can also in turn help them become more productive and successful and become highly respected by their team. So first one is the lack of feedback. According to 1,400 executives polled by the Ken Blanchard companies, failing to provide feedback is the most common mistake that leaders make. When you don't provide prompt feedback to your people, you're depriving them of the opportunity to improve their performance. So how can this be avoided? We can avoid this mistake by learning how to provide regular feedback to your team to motivate them to do better and to excel in their performance. A second one is not making time for your team. When you're a manager or a leader, it's easy to get so wrapped up in your own workload that you don't make yourself available to your team. So your people must come first. Without you being available when they need you, your people won't know what to do and they won't have the support and guidance that they need to meet their objectives. So how can we avoid this? We can avoid this mistake by blocking out time in your schedule specifically for your people and by learning how to listen actively to your team. You can also develop your emotional intelligence so that you can be more aware of your team and their needs, and have a regular time when your door is always open so that your people know when they can get your help. A third common leadership mistake is failing to define goals. When your people don't have clear goals, they muddle through their day. They can't be productive if they have no idea what they're working for or what their work means. They also can prioritize their workload effectively, meaning that their project and tasks get completed in the wrong order. We can avoid this mistake by learning how to set SMART goals for your team. You can also use a team charter to specify where your team is going and detail the resources it can draw upon. Also, use principles from your management objectives to align your team's goals to the mission of the organization. The last leadership issue that I'm going to discuss is not delegating, which is very common among leaders. Some managers don't delegate because they feel that no one, apart from themselves, can do key jobs properly. This can cause huge problems at work and bottlenecks around them as they become stressed and burn out. So how can we avoid this? We can avoid this by delegating. Delegation does take a lot of effort up front and it can be hard to trust your team to do the work correctly. But unless you delegate tasks, you're never going to have time to focus on the broader view that most leaders and managers are responsible for. What's more, you'll fail to develop your people so that they can take the pressure off from you.
So good afternoon. My name is Ivy, and I'm going to talk about the barriers to organizational communication. So whether the message is passed through along the communication lines, there will always be barriers to communication. So the first barrier is status. In an organizational setting, who says something is often more important than what is said. An example is that the president tends to have more status or credibility than the vice president or the general manager. So second is the number of links. When verbal communication is used, each person in the chain receives a message and then passes it on. An example would be the old parlor game. It's called pass the message. The message that goes in at the beginning is seldom the one that emerges. Third barrier is expansion and contraction. Sometimes the message has been expanded or contracted. Each person adds a little of something. An example would be when managers hate bad news. What subordinates would do is that they would shorten the message by reducing or omitting the negative parts. So the last barrier is organizational politics. Managers built their own empire, so of course they want to protect it. So managers form alliances in an effort to protect their objectives. Third barrier is expansion and contraction. Sometimes the message has been expanded or contracted. Each person adds a little of something. An example would be when managers hate bad news. What subordinates would do is that they would shorten the message by reducing or omitting the negative parts. So if the message is important, the manager should talk to someone or show it to someone. Then lastly, encourage trust and openness. Trust and openness should be encouraged, especially in the organization. So encourage teamwork like team building.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I'm going to conclude all of we have presented today. Communications play an important role for effectiveness of organizations. With the process of transmitting meaning between sender and receiver happens almost at times in one organization. And the effective communications is up to how well sender and receiver understand the same meaning of the message. And effective communications can create good relationships and cooperation between people, reducing conflicts and enhance the effectiveness of the organization. There are 4 types of organizational communication style, and each style has its own purpose and different barriers. To communicate effectively, we should understand the barriers of each style, and practicing beware of these barriers will help us communicate better and achieve the goal we expect. And one important thing that can prevent the barriers of communications is paying attention to the feedback. Feedback is very important as a tool for checking what is right or wrong of the message we receive. And feedback is very important as a tool for checking what is right or wrong of the message we receive, and showing the receiver what needs to be communicated friendly. And sometimes feedback can be used as a reward or punishment of people. In the case of interpersonal and organizational communications, feedback comes from the receiver. And the sender may use opening statement to search some feedbacks from the receiver. The more feedback the sender receives, the more understanding between sender and receiver will become. And the feedback can prevent the major cause of communication breakdowns, which basically come from one-way process of communication. Our presentations, thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer.